You buy the heavy, leather-bound productivity planner. You feel the weight of the paper, the rigid daily schedules, and the strict discipline it promises. 6 months later, the planner sits empty on a shelf, and you are still managing your daily obligations on a chaotic web of crumpled sticky notes. This recurring gap between intent and action stems from a predictable cognitive glitch. Yet the consumer research industry relies on the premise that people know exactly what they want, understand why they want it, and will report those desires accurately on a survey. When companies treat this aspirational intent as a proxy for actual demand, they encounter the 95% failure rate common in new consumer product launches. Behavioral scientists measure this failure through the intention-behavior gap, the statistical discrepancy between what consumers state they'll do and the actions they actually take. This 2x2 matrix plots intentions against actual outcomes. Meta-analytic data shows stated intentions explain only 28% of behavioral variance. The missing data lives here, in the top quadrant, the inclined abstainers. These individuals genuinely intend to act, but systematically fail to execute. The critical detail is that inclined abstainers aren't lying to researchers. In the confines of a focus group, they entirely believe their own stated intent. Surveys present a frictionless environment. Without the pressure of time, money, or competing priorities, the volume of inclined abstainers surges. Building a business model on the unchecked optimism of these inclined abstainers creates a product launch based on statistically unreliable projections. The root of this forecasting failure is biological. It stems from a cognitive blind spot called the introspection illusion. Human beings completely lack conscious access to the higher-order neural pathways that drive preferences. The brain's reporting center doesn't make decisions. It operates strictly as a public relations department, generating clean, logical explanations for actions the unconscious mind has already committed to. Psychologists call this confabulation, the automatic construction of a rational-sounding justification after an unconscious choice is made. Ask a consumer why they chose a product, and the PR department will cite efficiency, superior value, or health benefits. The true unconscious drivers are almost always anxiety relief, social status, or deeply ingrained habit. Consider the leather-bound planner. The stated, confabulated reason for buying it was a desire for systematic efficiency. The true unconscious driver was the momentary relief of anxiety. Simply holding the heavy, structured object temporarily eliminated the stress of feeling disorganized. If a brand engineers a product based on the PR department's confabulation, the product will collapse the moment it interacts with the consumer's unconscious reality. In the 1980s, Sony conducted focus groups for their new sports Walkman. It serves as the perfect historical control for confabulation in market research. When presented with design options, the target teenage demographic vehemently demanded a neon yellow model, aggressively rejecting the traditional black aesthetic. They provided perfectly rational confabulations. The yellow looked sporty, it matched their workout gear, and it rejected the corporate look. Inside a frictionless focus group room, demanding a bright yellow device was an exciting, aspirational choice that carried zero social consequences. As the participants exited the building, Sony introduced one final crucial test. They offered each teenager a free Walkman to take home. They could choose the neon yellow device they had just spent an hour advocating for, or they could take the standard black version. Every single participant who demanded yellow chose the black Walkman. When faced with the actual social friction of wearing a brightly colored device in public every day, their aspirational preferences collapsed instantly. Real-world choices default to utility and social safety. They do not default to exciting hypotheticals. The Sony case proves a harsh reality for product development. Stated preference is practically useless unless a tangible consequence is attached to the choice. Diagnosing the failure of survey data is only the first step. To accurately predict behavior, researchers require a functional alternative. Modern behavioral science addresses this through the multidimensional difference framework. This graph illustrates the framework's core premise. Consumer intention is not a stable psychological trait, but a highly volatile state that degrades rapidly over time. In the real world, situational friction, competing goals, time pressure, limited budgets, actively erodes that initial intention. Traditional market research attempts to measure static consumer attitudes. The framework dictates that researchers must abandon attitude measurement entirely and focus exclusively on behavioral enactment. This requires intensive longitudinal designs that track the volatility of a consumer's choices in real time within their actual environment. Asking a consumer to predict their own behavior 6 months from now is scientifically void because they cannot account for the contextual shifts they will face. Without tracking how intent degrades against context, any long-term behavioral prediction is just expensive corporate guesswork. To eliminate that guesswork, valid consumer research requires one absolute mandatory condition: skin in the game. A choice only generates valid data if it costs the consumer something real: their social capital, their actual money, or physical time. A choice without a cost is merely an aspiration. It is the empty planner on the shelf. This yields a single, actionable rule for practitioners: never test a preference without a consequence. The execution is straightforward. Companies must mandate an immediate cessation of hypothetical willingness to pay questions. Instead, offer participants the choice to keep their cash participation fee or force them to hand it back to secure the prototype. Watch what the consumer's hands do. Their mouth is biologically wired to lie.